Hello and welcome to another sailing with boatbrew.com. Bring you another standard video. This time around it's Abzan Aggro on the left side of the screen. Basically almost the deck list of Kyle Boggemes from third place last weekend from SCG Open. We did few modifications. We basically took out one Tasigur, one Dromoka's command, and one Warden of the first three, and put 3 Thoughtseizes main deck, which are generally probably better in the field full of control decks and really beefy green decks. And on the right side of the screen is a Jeskai heroic deck, the deck list of Losset from a couple of weeks ago, where he won one Star City Open event. I think it was the weekend during the last Star City Invitational. So I started with just a Plains and Fable hero. He started with an Orberg Tome of Yamath and a Thoughtseize. I was lucky enough that I already cast my creature. I had a second one in the form of Hero of Arrows, Flooded Strand, Divine Strike, 2 Demur, Battle Rage, and he takes the hero, leaving me with a second land and a bunch of pumps. I have no second red source, but that was still a keepable hand on the play. I drew a blue-white temple, so I scryed first, saw another hero on top of my deck, tanked for a while. I sort of wanted a red source for the Timur Rage. It stuck in my hand, and I scryed first before drawing a card with Divine Strike so that I could have some control over my top deck. So I dealt him 3 damage that turn. Drew Jeskai Trial Land, the Monastery, which was almost ideal. He just had his Trial Land on turn 2 and nothing else. Obviously he would have cast something on turn 2 if he didn't lead with an Orberg and the Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize was also good, like to get rid of another creature or a protection spell. So went on to attack for 2, played a Trial Land and played the second Fable hero, exposing myself a bit to Bile Blight, but his list didn't have any of those, so it didn't matter. Plains and an offense on turn 3 from him, so he's having a roadblock, but I have a red source already. Plus Fabled hero, apart from getting the counter with the heroic ability, it also prevents all damage to itself. Hit a Battlefield Force, so I had double red source, and he knew that I had double Timur Rage, but of course he would probably want me to use it, so that there was no reason not to block there. The problem was that it was tricky to switch on Ferocious and Trample on the Rage, because the first Rage wouldn't give me a 4 power guy on board, so I went on casting a second one onto the same guy, giving a double strike and Trample. And that's a 4 power guy, and this way he is supposed to take essentially 9 damage. I know it was sacrificed 5 damage there. Please correct us, I'm like really curious whether we messed up the math. Somehow I always make retard calculations when it involves like double strike and trample and things like that. I think he probably should have taken more damage there, but I'm not sure. Because I had to assign 4 to kill his guy and so on. I suppose if his guy was less than 4 toughness, then probably he would take way more damage there. Death touch and trample and double strike and things like that, it's totally another story. So just a couple of fleece main lines from him, and I added a Hero of Arrows to the board. I played different variations of Heroic during the test sessions, but not with the red, so I didn't have the interaction of trample plus double strike that much. And it's even not that often to have it unlimited. So that's one way how I can mess up my math. But I didn't play Heroic at any of the big events yet. He blocks Hero with the line. I obviously want to make it at least a trade, so I cast Divine Strike on the hero. No other instant pump or protection spell, so I have to trade the hero for a line. He took 1 and basically chumped with the line to the big hoplite in play. Played another land and tried to figure out what he can do, and yeah, he's good because he was definitely flatted and I think didn't hit any single spell there at the last turn and just drew a bunch of lands. So I went to game 2 here, still main deck. This is not really a preparation test for any big tournaments, unlike we normally do. This is just for you guys. Both decks are viable and in a way common in the meta game right now. Although I personally like the banned Heroic more, and I know that it's one regional PTQ nearby me, one person made a top 4 Sylvester qualified for Proto Vancouver with a 4-color Heroic list, probably splashing for both Teamer, Dial Rage and Dromoka's commands. And with few mana confluences in the deck, that doesn't appear to be a too tricky thing to do. Yes, like he would have to play more pain lands and maybe 1 or 2 more temples than even in normal 3-color builds. But maybe it's worth it. I don't know, but in the 4-color build you probably start with 4 mana confluences, because you don't want to have too many tapped lands in that kind of build. But I definitely do like the Ross Miriam's banned Heroic lists, which he piloted to win at last weekend's Star City Open. His whole matches the entire day in the playoff, in the feature match area, all looked very grindy and very skill intensive and really crazy. And of course he has done really huge miracles with those couple of Monastery Mentors in his deck. So I really like his take on Heroic, even though his list was probably influenced or discussed in conjunction with Tom Ross. the other hand, Dromoka's command is pretty much a dead card against Esper Dragons, but in all creature matchups it's a wondrous card, and of course especially against all the red decks with burn spells and at least some creatures. So Hero of the Wilds and a Thoughtseizes from him. Well, I just had a Temple and the Tri-lands, and now turn 2 guy. He saw a hand of Treasure Cruise, Ordeal Attacks, a double Hoplite, the 2-drop 1 Seeker, Defiant Strike, and the Complete Soul, I believe that's the name of the card, the one for 2 mana instant with gives a protection from a color until end of turn and has the rebound. Well, his idea is probably to take away a creature here. He takes away Seeker because he feels like he can do some beatdowns in this game. And the turn after he attacks over here, I cast Defiant Strike on his guy in order just to counter and draw into more lands so that I can maybe play a guy and have a protection spell up or things like that, just to be able to cast more than 1 spell per turn. I'm not really afraid to have some of my creatures die here because I have Treasure Cruise and already 2 cards in the yard. Even if I would be forced to block here. Well, I mean, we see that in his hand he has already a Valorous Stance, Windmage Rock, and Dromoka's command, but if he hadn't had a removal here and attacked with the hair, which is probably, dependent on his hand, a reasonable thing to do, especially if you have like a Rhino in hand, I would probably block here, I feel like. But I'm not sure. But instead he had the Dromoka's command, and while I was tapped out it was safe to just put a counter on your guy and fight. I had a Hoplite and another land, but it's a Temple. So another creature on top, but I decided to keep it because now I had 3 lands and he knows I have a protection spell in hand already. But it was fine to have a 1 mana guy as a backup. Both at 15 before this attack of the hair, fell down to 12. Didn't really need to attack there. His turn he just had hit a Temple and Scribe. A bit ballsy move. I think I had a 1 mana protection spell like God's Willing. So I Scribe to the top, I think. He hit a Valorous Stance on his guy. Cast God's Willing. Pump my guy. Cannot block the Ordeal yet because it was already after attacking. Yeah, so what I scried last turn wasn't a 1-drop creature like Hoplite, it was a God's Willing, which was a perfect thing to have at this point. So he took 5. Falling down to 9. Because he had to take 1 pain from a pain land to cast the Valorous Stance. Here he did a strange thing, he attacked, but we know that he has a Windmage Rock here in hand. So it actually doesn't make much of a difference to attack or not to attack. But you would rather want to deal some damage and try to raise. So that's what he did. He had to take 1 more damage in the process to have double white for a Windmage Rock. So it comes with a friend, another 3 or 4 flyer, If I hit the protection spell here, I almost win here. Because it would be with any spell 6 and then plus ordeal, it's 7. So it's a 6 power guy attacking. But I didn't hit a protection spell, so or rather it wasn't a pump spell. So there was no reason at this point to waste it, because I had only one protection spell and my attack wasn't lethal. I would push him down to 1 anyway, and I'd rather have for sure some way to get through for sure next turn. So in order not to simply die myself, I cast a couple of 1-drops. This way, just having some backups to block with for his hair, and having a backup creature in case he had like double removal or something like that. I took 3 from the Windmate Rock. He gained 1 in the process. Cast Rakshas, a Death Dealer, which was fine. Really needed to hit a second protection spell. But I had only the soul in hand. As for big tricks there, that would be just for 7. And if he would have a removal, I would be in a pretty bad spot. I decided to go for it anyway. He didn't have removal, so that's plus a counter and scrying. I tanked for a while, don't remember what it was. Still treasure cruise in hand to refuel and draw some more, but definitely didn't want to tap out here. I didn't have a third untapped land. Don't remember what it was on top, but I kept it there. The soul will rebound next turn, so I will for sure kill him next turn, unless he would have a removal spell right there. I ponder whether to play another creature here or not, because I didn't have any other options really. So I decided to play out the Hero of Eros here, then the Temple of Triumph. I know my top card, which I kept already. I'll describe from the hoplite. He's at 2, but I'm at 6. I have to block 2 creatures here if he attacks, because if he would have a Abzan Charm, then that would be it for sure. Plus, like, Death Dealer can be pumped, and he had enough mana to maybe pump at least twice. So he had only 1 green non-pain land here, and 3 pain lands at least. So that meant that he was able to actually pump only once, because pumping twice would mean that he would take 2 extra damage. didn't have removal. I think he had to attack with everybody. I'm not sure. Well, he got stun offense and then quickly scoot because he didn't have Abzan Charmer any removal whatsoever. And he knew that I would rebound the protection spell anyway. Yeah, my draws were pretty nice after the cruise, which I would probably cast next turn. There you have it. So, moving to post-sideboard games, but first a little bit about our sideboarding plan. So I brought in Cloud Forms. It's making an evasive and hexproof guy. Brought in Glare Heresy, took out one White Ordeal and took out all the 4 rages because I wanted more counters. I could have brought in Negate, but oh well. He brought in Sorin for life gain to do resist 2 prices and took out some creatures and some expensive drops. It seems kinda logical here because he has Thoughtseizes main deck already. Could have brought in Negate, I'm not sure. Maybe take out another White Ordeal, like Ardila Hilliard. So starting post-cyber games. Because he brings in more spells and takes out some creatures, so it's probably correct to bring in Negate here. He decides to mulligan. I kept my hand, even though it was I think a 1-lander. I'm not sure. No, it was 2 landers, so blue-eye fetch and the plains. Some guys, some tricks. Perfectly reasonable hand. And because I didn't have a hoplite to play in turn 1, you would see me laying down a fetch lens first and cracking it because I didn't want to draw the island because the list only had 1 island and I had the Cloud Form in hand. Which was 1 and 2 blue. So I think it was a correct line. And he started just with a trial end. But this means that he could cast pretty much whatever next turn. Most likely. I had a choice what creature to play there and decided to go with the Seeker. Because that's the creature I'm fine playing out there versus his removals and his life gain anyway. And I'm playing against essentially an aggro deck. Or let's say beatdown deck with disruption. So I attack, he didn't block, so there was no reason for me to play a protection spell. I cast the Hero of Arrows here. With white mana up for a protection spell. He goes for ultimate price onto my hero. And I have, of course, God's Willing. His logic was that if I didn't spend spell to pump my guy and gain a bunch of life and so on last turn, he would assume that I don't have it. So that's why he went in for the price there before attacks. That was some really strange logic, but maybe it has some grounds, I'm not sure. I think against Heroic you're only safe when the opponent is tapped out or doesn't have access to white mana. And even with blue mana up, it could be Denial or Negate or the Disdainful Stroke if it's about and Hostilities or Crux of Fate. He wants to eat a protection spell here, probably, and doesn't want to take too much damage, so he blocks with a line to my Seeker. The reason here to block the Seeker is that it would requires me to have 2 spells to make my guy 4/4 or something like that. So while for Hero Virus it would get a counter from any spell that targets it. So I hit a protection spell, gain some life, dealt some damage to him, scryed to the bottom with a temple. His turn 4 is just a Rhino. Still solid. His curve is still solid. Line into Ultimate Price into Siege Rhino. But still, those kind of draws is what Heroic is looking for to play against. Pumped it a little bit, drew, and then remembered the rebound. But because this is not tournament play, this is fine. But of course it would be a terrible mistake in a sanctioned tournament. He was telling me that maybe in some events it's fine to make a reminder with rebound spell like this, slice a card with a 45-degree angle into the deck, but yeah, I still don't like it. At an FNM that's probably okay, but definitely you can do lots of ways to remember rebounds or packs or whatever. So I attack with a Hero Various and before blockers, cast Defiant Strike on it, throw in a card. And it was already with a protection from the rebound spell, so he's already down to 12. Then I cast Cloud Form, getting a 2/2 manifest creature with flying and hexproof. That wasn't a creature, as I checked. That was just the protection spell, the Soul, with rebound. That was a little bit of a pity, because I would very much rather want to draw it. But a flying hexproof creature against Abzan Aggro is also not that bad. He has just a Death Dealer. No real reason to attack here, otherwise he could be taking way too much damage. And I'm fine racing here, especially with a Seeker. I'm thinking where to put the Ordeal of Tassa. Probably the safest choice is to put it onto the flying hexproof guy. But I decided to put it on the hero because I think I had a protection spell in hand already at this point. Yes, the ordeal would cost just 1. But I wanted to draw some cards, so that's why I put it on the hero. I wanted to draw some cards right there. It felt like he didn't have any removal there. And my hero would be a giant beater at this point. I attacked with everybody because I knew I would draw a bunch of cards and I had another spell in my hand. So Seeker might actually be able to eat a guy from him if he decides to block it. The hero is already a 7/7 creature. So he decided to block the Seeker with the Rhino. It's already a 3/3 lifelink creature. I had 2 Guts Willings in my hand at this point. I decided to burn 1 and not just 2 because I would rather have my hero alive in case if he top decks a removal spell. So I just end up gaining 4 from the Seeker and keep it alive. And he takes 9. Temple, Scry. It's a lands, bottom it. He just draws a land. He's in a really bad shape here. If I have a pump for the cloud form, then he's done. He casts another Death Dealer with an ability to pump it once, but then he would take 1 damage from the Llanowar Waste. So yeah, as you can see, heroic decks really like to play against a deck like Abzan Aggro. So yeah, I hit a Ordeal Attack onto my guy, making it a 3 power attacker, and that's enough to take the game. So on to a second post sideboard game. I still did not bring a negate in because I wanted to have more ways to target my guys, because this list doesn't have Stratus Walks or the 1 mana blue enchantments Aqua's form, so I didn't want to take out too many ways to buff my guys, and I wanted to keep 1 Treasure Cruise in the deck. And negate anyways costs 2 mana, Denow is much better. I didn't bring any Disdainful Search because all the cards which actually matter in this matchup cost less than 4. I don't care really about his Rhino. Maybe I do care about his Sorin, but I have Stubborn Denial and potentially negate for it, which I decided still not to bring in, though I could have. I know. Didn't want to dissolve the deck too much, even though it was just 1 card matter. I keep my hand. He's pondering about his. Kept it, so Temple and 1, Scries to the top. I draw for my turn. Forge, cast Laguna, the 0/4 heroic creature. Just try land and pass from him. Fetch. Grab a Plains. Defiant Strike to draw into some action and deal more damage. Well, essentially to deal any damage that turn. And I think I had the Guts Willing in hand now. Hero Wells, which is fine. Cheap death touch creature, forcing me to have a protection spell. Lay down a fetch, or deal a Heliot onto Laguna. While I probably should have cast something else that turn, because this way it's not really a good idea to attack. I would gain some life, but that didn't matter this early in the game. Probably should have cast another creature here, I feel like. Now Dromoka's command is on, which he has in his hand. He would be able to put a counter on his guy and fight my creature, forcing me to have a protection spell. A fetch in response, grab a plains and cast the Guts Willing to make my guy pro green. That also means that he burned a card here. Oh. His hair stays because my guy is an illegal target, so the fight doesn't actually happen. I scry, see mana contents on top, scry to the bottom. He just passes the turn here, forcing me to have another protection spell. Even though he took out a bunch of creatures from his deck out to sideboard, and it doesn't matter if he can keep my actions in check, he can win with like virtually any creatures. So I do have a protection spell, the one with rebound. Here's just a Urborg up, so that's a safe attack. Get another counter from our deal, gain a bunch of life, so deal him 5. As of now, I had a Defiant Strike, which I decided not to burn here. Temple of Triumph, Scribe. It's his turn and taps. Draws. Play the Siege Rhino, which is perfectly fine. Really happy to see that instead of a removal spell. And because again the bunch of life, I'm fine taking some damage, and because he knows about the rebound protection spell, he probably had to attack. Defiant Strike, make my guy bigger, draw a fresh card. Decided to cast it main phase so that I can still hit some more R deals or things like that, or maybe a Treasure Cruise. Play another land, and with 2 mana up, cast a Hero of Argos. He's already down to 9. wonders for a while. What he could potentially do here. I have a God's Willing and another creature in my hand. And he has a lot of options here, apparently. And he decides to go for another Rhino. This way he's not dead to my next attack if I have a protection spell. And on this board it's fine for him to try to erase me here. So he attacked with Siege Rhino. So he's a 12, I'm at 13. I have a Seeker of the Way, God's Willing in hand, and third card. So played out Seeker, played out another Seeker of the Way, with just a God's Willing in hand, which is not really lethal. Didn't quite want to attack here, although I probably should have. And then he casts Sorin, pluses, giving his team +1 to attack and lifelink until his next turn. And that was a crazy sequence here. Now he has a 5/4 Death Dash lifelinker attacking. And I don't want him to gain life, and I don't want to take that damage either. And after tanking a bit, I decide to block it with Laguna and God's Willing up my guy. To hit his guy, and this way he would not gain any life because of protection on my creature. But I'm still not happy with what I see here. I think in the dark it was probably still correct to cast a protection spell on my guy and just try to raise and hope he doesn't have removal and draw another protection spell and win right there. But with Sorin that wouldn't be a thing at all. This way he didn't gain life and I ate his guy and I had the protection up, so I don't know. In the dark I probably should have cast a protection spell onto my guy and tried to raise, but then he would have been free to just attack with all of his creatures, I feel like, and gain a gazillion amounts of life. So I think the fact that I hold on to God's Willing there turned out to be good for me, but the fact that he had Sorin there wasn't good still. So I attack with a 7/11 Laguna into his Sorin, forcing him to double block or at least block with one creature. Yes, he would gain a bunch of life, but that means he would have one Rhino dead, and because of 11 toughness on my guy, his double block means that my guy wouldn't die no matter what, even without the protection spell. So his Rhinos here were 5/5 lifelinkers. So he just decided to block with one, so because there was no reason to block with both, just to maybe gain more life. But if I would have had the pump spell here, protection spell, something like that. That means he maybe would have to sacrifice both rhinos. So maybe it was correct to block with both for him, I don't know. Then he had ultimate prize for my Giant's Laguna. Made a vampire with Sorin, taking him down to 2. Cast the Fleece mainline, and now I'm in a really rough shape. I would need a treasure cruise or protection spell or something, and he's up to 22 life because of lifelink. So yeah, the tides really have turned this game. But I don't think I really made mistakes in this game. It's probably like the flood in which essentially made me lose this game. Yeah, nothing to help. Okay guys, hope you enjoyed this. Deck list in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next sailing.